All right, I am in my garden today and I want to talk a little bit about sugar snap peas and common problems with growing sugar snap peas. Sugar snap peas, from my experience, are a real joy to grow and a real joy to eat. They're very, very tolerant of cold weather. They'll continue to resiliently grow at 35 degrees, 40 degrees, as long as it doesn't get below freezing. And typically, these are 6 plants, and they've been growing about 3.5 months, and they're starting to blossom real well. I'm getting a lot of peas coming in right now, and that'll probably go for another month or so before they start to peter out from the heat. But one of the things that we run into with these snap peas is, I don't know how well you can see this with the phone camera here, but right in here you can see that these stalks aren't perfectly green. There's kind of like a brown striping on these stalks, and typically this can be bacterial. It could be like almost like a root rot. It can also be fungal, and that's something to watch out for on these plants, because if this brown stuff, which is kind of eating into the stalk, if that gets real out of hand, it'll eventually eat its way all the way through the stalk. It's going to choke off the plant, and it'll kill it. So typically, if you see that, you want to address the problem. For us, my suspicion is that this is fungal. So when these guys first started growing, I would spray a copper spray on them, which is just it's like a copper sulfate. You can buy it in your local gardening center, and you mix it with an appropriate amount of water. You put it in your sprayer and just spray the plants as they grow. Every 3 weeks, every 4 weeks, spray them one time, and it'll really keep that fungus down. It doesn't completely kill it, but it really keeps it down, and it allows your plants to grow for a healthy amount of time without having that problem choking them off. The second issue that I hear a lot about is powdery mildew. And powdery mildew is just an airborne fungus. There's no good way to prevent it, but when you see it, you can get rid of it. And again, that copper spray that we use, that's a good one that helps reduce powdery mildew. But I'll show you here. You can see these little gray spots on these leaves. This is powdery mildew. And eventually these gray spots will kind of take over the entire leaf, and then that powdery mildew will just kind of coat everything. And so you try to nip that stuff in the bud, so to speak, and you can either, if you start to see it on your plants, you're probably a little late to be spraying. So at this point with these guys, I'm not going to spray this. I'm going to just pull these leaves. And when you pull the leaves, you don't want to throw them into your compost. You don't want to put them someplace where you're just going to regenerate more powdery mildew. So I'll probably put these into our recycled compost for the city services. But also, like I said, if you use a copper spray, you can spray these things down every 2 or 3 weeks, and that will really cut back on that powdery mildew. Powdery mildew itself is not a danger in terms of eating it. Usually it just washes off when you pull the peas. But I've seen it get really bad, and it can consume whole plants. The whole plant ends up getting just this white coating over it, and when you look at it, you just don't want to eat anything off of it, even though it's fairly safe to eat. So anyway, those are the two things that typically I hear a lot of complaints about when you're growing sugar snap peas. Have the bacterial or fungal rot that is on the stalks, usually due to moisture, too much moisture around the stalks. You can tamp that down by trying to keep things dried. If you're watering, don't water directly onto the stalks. Use a copper spray or some kind of antifungal, and hopefully you'll end up 3.5 months down the road with great huge vines like these guys, nice lush, a little bit of work but not too much. Just keep them watered, tend to them, and enjoy all the great peas that they produce.